Hello! Today we'll be learning all about how to find the surface area of prisms. And before we get started, we need to go over a couple of definitions just to make sure that we are all on the same page. So the first definition is prism. What is a prism? Well, it is a three-dimensional shape with two congruent or identical shapes opposite and parallel to each other. So if we look at this triangular prism, we'll notice that there is a triangle here that is exactly the same shape as the triangle on the other side, and it's parallel to it. That is called the base. These congruent shapes are called bases. Today, we will be learning about three different types of prisms, and they are generally named after the shape of their bases. So our first one, the base is a rectangular, so it is a rectangular prism. Second, we'll learn about triangular prisms. And third, we'll learn about cubes. Cubes are interesting because we do not call them square prisms. The bases are squares, and they can be solved similarly to the rectangular prism. So let's go ahead and move on to the next definition, which is a lateral face. The lateral face is simply all the faces except the bases, and they are always in the shape of a parallelogram. So if we look at this triangular prism again, the triangles are the bases, so that means that all of these last three faces are called lateral faces. Surface area is the area of the outside of a 3D shape. So you kind of think of it like if you were going to perfectly wrap something in wrapping paper instead of having all the folds and creases, that the amount of wrapping paper you would need for that would be the surface area. Okay? So it's just the whole outside of that 3D shape. And finally, we need to talk about the net. This should be review. A net is just a flattened out 3D object. So if you just took it and you unfolded it on all the seams, what would it look like? It would look like this. That's the net. So let's go ahead and get started with solving our first one. We are going to look at the rectangular prism. We want to find the surface area of this rectangular prism. So first step, we need to draw a net. So in case you forgot what a net of a rectangular prism might look like, we're going to go ahead and look at this. All right, so the net looks like that. The next step is we need to find the area of all the individual faces. So we'll start with the bases. Our base is 3 times 5 equals 15, and there are two of those, so we'll go ahead and put 15 in both of those bases. The next one we'll look at is the 3 times 6 equals 18. And if you look closely, we actually have two of those as well, two that are exact same size. So we'll go ahead and label those. And finally, we have our last lateral face, and that's going to be 5 times 6 equals 30. And there are two of those. So next, we're going to add the area of all of the faces together, and we'll end up with 126 square inches. Now, this was kind of a cool little thing. If you notice, there are two of each of the different types of lateral faces and bases. And so we could use this formula. The surface area is equal to 2 times length times width plus 2 times length times height plus 2 times width times height. And if you go through and you solve it that way, you'll end up with the same exact answer, 126 square inches. So feel free to use either method, they both work. Let's move on and try one on your own. Remember, at this point, you can take a break and do all of the work on your own and then answer the question. And at the end, you will be able to check your work against the work on the next slide. All right, so you should have gotten 52 feet squared. You can do it either way. You can find the area of each part, add it together, or you can use the formula we taught you in the last slide. All right, let's move on. We are going to now try out finding the surface area of a triangular prism. So let's see what that would look like. Cool. So we're going to draw a net. The net should look like this. Now we're going to find the area of the bases. Remember, in this case, the base is a triangle because it is a triangular prism. To find the area of a triangle, you're going to do 1/2 base times height. So you end up with 1/2, 3 times 4 equals 6. Next, we're going to find the area of the lateral faces. So we've labeled them all different colors to just make it easy. So the area of the green lateral face is just going to be 3 times 6 equals 18. Purple, 5 times 6 equals 30. And blue is 4 times 6 equals 24. Next, we're going to just add them all together. Just like we did in the last one, we're just going to add up all those areas. Remember, there are 2 bases, so we have to add the base in twice. So 6 plus 6 plus 18 plus 30 plus 24 equals 84. So the surface area is 84 square meters, or meters squared. Let's go ahead and move to the next one. This time you're going to get to try it on your own. I want you to find the surface area of this triangular prism. Go ahead, try out your work, answer it, and then we'll check. All right, so you should have gotten 150 meters squared. Notice I forgot to put the meters squared on here, so we're going to go ahead and add that. It's always important to label your work correctly. So 150 meters squared. Let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. We are now going to work on finding the surface area of a cube. And cubes are really interesting because they have all squares, right? Everything's going to be the same number. So we can just use a simple formula for this one. It has 6 identical faces. So we're just going to do 6 times the surface area squared, okay? So 6 times 12 squared. 6 times the side squared. Sorry, I should have said it that way. So 12 squared is equal to 864. So the answer is 864 square meters. Remember those labels. So now I'm going to go ahead and let you guys try that one on your own as well. So go ahead, try it out, see if you can use that formula correctly to get the right answer, and then check back to see the work. Make sure that you update if you need to. All right, so you should have ended up with 486 centimeters squared as your answer. Hopefully this helps you understand how to find the surface area of prisms better, and we'll see you next time.